When the artillery barrage lifts and the smoke clears, when your rifle jams with mud and your gas mask canister cracks, when the supply wagons are shelled to splinters miles behind the line, what remains between you and the abyss? For the soldiers of the Great War, survival often came down to what they carried in their most private, most protected spaces, not the standard-issue kit inspected by sergeants, but the secret pocket core, those small, unglamorous items tucked into tunic linings, wrapped in oilcloth and sewn into hidden seams. These weren't luxuries, they were lifelines. This is the story of the forgotten essentials that turned ordinary men into survivors when the entire machinery of modern warfare ground to a halt around them. Imagine standing knee-deep in the freezing slurry of a Belgian trench in November 1916. The official ration hasn't arrived in 3 days. Your water bottle was punctured by shrapnel yesterday. The chlorinated water from the communal barrel tastes like industrial poison and carries dysentery through the ranks like wildfire. In moments like these, experienced soldiers reached not for what the army gave them, but for what they'd learned to carry in secret. Veteran infantrymen developed an almost mystical understanding of redundancy, creating personal survival systems within the breast pockets of their tunics, the hidden compartments of their haversacks, and even hollowed-out sections of their rifle stocks. A Canadian private named William McKinley wrote in his diary about a life pocket he'd sewn into his uniform's inner lining, a space no larger than a cigarette tin, where he kept iodine tablets stolen from a field hospital, a tiny compass made from a magnetized sewing needle, and a folded square of rubber ground sheet that could purify water or dress a wound. When his platoon was cut off for 6 days during the Somme offensive, those items kept him breathing, while men around him succumbed to infected wounds and contaminated water. The secret pocket core wasn't standardized, but patterns emerged across all armies. French poilus learned to carry small tins of dubbin, not just for waterproofing boots, but because the petroleum-based grease could start fires in impossibly wet conditions, treat minor burns, and even provide emergency calories when mixed with hardtack crumbs. British Tommies discovered that the humble safety pin, carried by the dozen, could repair torn gas masks, fashion makeshift fishhooks, secure bandages when medical supplies ran out, and even serve as emergency sutures for superficial wounds. German soldiers often carried what they called a trench angel, a palm-sized metal mirror that could signal across no man's land, check for snipers around corners, and reflect precious sunlight into dugouts during the endless winter darkness. These weren't romantic notions. Australian tunnel warfare specialist Oliver Woodward documented how a 2-inch fragment of mirror saved his entire mining section when they became disoriented in collapsed galleries beneath Messines Ridge. By reflecting the faint glow of safety lamps, they navigated back to Allied tunnels that conventional compasses couldn't locate due to magnetic interference from buried ordnance. Yet the most critical component of the secret pocket core wasn't physical at all. Letters from home, photographs creased from constant handling, small religious medals, or even a smooth riverstone from childhood became psychological armor against the industrialized horror of trench warfare. French psychiatrist Thomas Salmon, working with shell-shocked soldiers, noted that men who maintained these personal talismans showed measurably higher resilience to combat stress. These items occupied the most protected pockets, often wrapped in multiple layers of oilcloth and checked obsessively. They represented the reason to employ all those other survival tricks, the motivation to use that hidden iodine or that secret fire starter. When Captain Julian Grenfell died from shrapnel wounds in 1915, surgeons found a 4-leaf clover pressed between two pieces of mica in a leather pouch sewn directly against his heart. It hadn't stopped the steel, but fellow officers testified it had kept him fighting through a dozen earlier engagements when lesser men broke. The secret pocket core succeeded because it combined practical survival tools with the irreplaceable fuel of human hope, creating a system greater than the sum of its parts. Today's survivalists and bushcraft practitioners are rediscovering what those Great War soldiers knew by necessity. Redundancy, simplicity, and the will to persist matter more than elaborate gear. The principles remain unchanged: carry fire, carry water purification, carry tools that serve multiple functions, and carry something that reminds you why survival matters. The secret pocket core endures because it represents the ultimate truth of self-reliance. When systems fail, when technology breaks, when help cannot reach you, the essentials you've protected and the knowledge you've internalized become your only reality. If this journey into forgotten Fieldcraft has sparked something in you, subscribe to Fieldcraft Chronicles. Share this video with those who understand that history's hardest lessons offer our most practical wisdom. The soldiers of 1914 to 1918 can't teach us anymore, but their secrets still can.